Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Women Who Rock with Success, which is an award-winning show for professional women. We profile a collective of amazing women who are thriving to build their brand. Women are handpicked in various fields who can provide credible information to build your business and lifestyle. We are live each Thursday at 9 a.m. Central Time, followed by our latest brand, Women Who Rock Investigates. To learn more about us, go to our website at www.womenwhorockwithsuccess.com. Now, let's join our podcast host in the studio, Mrs. Diane Winbush.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast on today. We thank you for tuning in with us on Women Who Rock with Success Media, and this is your show host, Ms. Diane Winbush. And so for this rest of the remaining of the month, it appears that we're going to be doing some talking and speaking and learning more about authors. And of course, authors are very important. They write so we can be able to learn, obtain, stay abreast, and also some authors may create a presence where sometimes you can read and you can be in a Cinderella type of fairy tale, just kind of however you see fit. And so today we have an interesting guest that's on the platform with us today in the studio, and she is none other than Mrs. Jenelle Simpson. So good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. So thank you for being with us on today. So tell us a little bit about you, Janelle, as to what was some of the areas that compelled you to become an artist in authorship, writing books.
I actually always wanted to be an author when I was younger, but I struggled with grammar.
Okay.
And when I was growing up, I didn't see a lot of authors that looked like me in terms of color or, you know what I mean? So I always thought, you can't be an author. How are you going to be an author? You're not good at grammar. You didn't go to school for it. And then I don't know, God kept pushing me in that direction, saying, write the book. You're focusing on the wrong things. I'll equip you with all the things that you need to become an author. So I always wanted to be an author and write a book. I just held back because I didn't think I had it in me.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a long time coming.
Okay, that's okay. That's fine, because a lot of times, when it comes to writing, sometimes individuals will have writer's block, and then sometimes, as you stated, sometimes we'll look at, who else is writing, and perhaps maybe I may be the only elephant of color that desires to write, so let me pull back for a second and let someone else get in front of me in order to get me, I guess, started and what have you. But that's great that you never allowed that to stifle, I guess would be the word, you in that area, and you was able to make an impact on that. So that is great. So this is something that you have always wanted to do as a child. So was it some sort of comic factor or what have you, like Superman, Wonder Woman, or Cinderella, or the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? So what kind of I guess icon compelled you to do this?
Nobody. I grew up and I saw a lot of things around me that I wanted to change, and I didn't see a lot of people reading. Like even now, the generation, we don't read enough, right? And I always wanted to write nonfiction books, because I felt like if we write raw stories that people can relate to, they'll read it. They'll watch it. If you could turn it into a movie too, they'll watch it. And it will help them in some way in their journey in their life, right? Recently, I realized that I wanted to do children's books, because I see my kids and I see them now growing up, going through different things that I never experienced. I'm like, oh my gosh, other kids need to be able to relate to each other.
Absolutely. So, Janelle, go ahead. I'm sorry. You can finish.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, even now with my kids, like sometimes I'll be like to my daughter, go like read a book, and she doesn't want to read it. Like she'll start reading it for a few minutes or so, and then she gets bored, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm like, okay, why are you bored? Like, you saw the book. You saw the picture of the book. You asked me to order the book for you online. I bought it. Now you don't want to finish the book. Why? Like, what's going on here? So I listen to my kids and I hear how they have such an imaginary mind, and when they're speaking to their friends in the neighborhood and they're talking about situations that we as adults speak about. So I'm like, why not get the kids writing? Why not get the kids telling us their stories and we put it into books? And maybe that's a way to get them to want to read the books more because they can relate to it. And they're like, well, yeah, I went through that yesterday at school and it made me feel really angry. And that kid went through it too, and they handled it a different way. So maybe I can learn from that kid through that story, right? So I really like nonfiction books because I feel like it pulls people in when it's raw and juicy, and they can be like, well, I went through that, even children. So fiction is great. Like, I've always read the fiction, and I'm like, oh, fairy tale. Oh, I hope that I grow up to marry a handsome prince, and, you know. But reality is that's not how it really happens, right? Right. There's some speed bumps and walls in the way sometimes that we don't really talk about, but why not talk about it?
Absolutely. I agree with that. You know, NBC came up with a very great strategy for children because, you know, children don't watch the news, of course. You know, my grandparents watched it for years when we were children. So it wasn't until life started mattering, until life began to matter some years ago when I became adult and what have you, that compelled me to the news. So now they have like a segment that comes on at 4:00, depending on what, you know, time zone that the individual's in, but they have like a story, like a, you know, a news time for the children, for the young children. And I'm like, wow, and that's awesome. And so that kind of made me think about what you just had stated, that, you know, sometimes we may have to get to the person on their level. We have to talk to them on their level. And, you know, recently I think it was since March, April, and perhaps even the month of May, we had been doing some film directing. Guests had some film directors on the show as well. And even with that, Janelle, it kind of it opened my eyes to a lot of things too. So what the film directors are doing, they're making, you know, they're putting the stories out there according to what's going on in the, you know, in the nation, in the world, in their state, in their country, or in their town, and what have you. And that is what will compel the individual. Now, one of the best authors that I love, and she's dead, bless her little heart, and that's Mary Higgins Clark. So I'm a mystery girl and Agatha Christie. Yeah, I love those types of stories because they go in there and they grab you in. And so, of course, I'm a fan of Non too. So that's great. That is so wonderful that you pursued your dream as a writer and wanted to be able to share some things as to youth, teen adults, to be able to help them, to be able to compel them more and more, because children now, they have so many devices and other types of entertainment and categories that they can be able to be, you know, getting enthusiastic with besides reading. So if we put a book in front of them in regards to something like, oh, I ate pizza and I didn't like it in the lunchroom, they'll probably pick that up and won't put it down.
It's true. Or what I used to do is throw up my lunches when my mom used to pass me lunches.
Yeah. Or now what they have now is where they're selling all types of stuff. And I think when Michelle Obama was in the White House with her husband, of course, as the First Lady, that was one of her strategies that she was working on, trying to work with schools, education, as to try to pull some of the fattening of the, you know, the foods, you know, they go around. You know, when we were coming up as children, you just got one meal in there, whether it was the breakfast or the lunch. They didn't push around a cart with sausage and biscuits and pizza and stuff like that. And so that's when she found that out and found out the rate of obesity, you know, with the children, she went in there and jumped in there.
Yeah. We give it to them because they'll eat it, but we gotta break that out of them.
Exactly. She was like, this is the problem for the children having all of this obesity, because you all are pushing these carts around, giving them Butterfingers, selling Butterfingers for $1, and the children. I was asking one of my grandchildren, where does do they tell you where the proceeds are going? No, we never find out where the proceeds are going. They're just blowing them up.
They're just throwing all the money away.
Exactly. And so that's one of the things that, and so it just made me reminisce on what you were saying about your child. You know, they did not want to actually read. Why you don't want to read and what have you? But I guess if you give them something that they want, they'll, engage with it. So that's great. Right. That's great. So we
and it's funny because, like I said, she'll look at the picture, but my book, that was, my cover was what I wanted to first draw people, right? And kids love pictures. You got to make them love the book too. You got to make them love. You got to find a way to do the illustrations inside the book and make them love the book too and want to read the book and pass it on to their friends.
Exactly.
I talked to parents and I bought my kids a whole stack of book and I had to throw them out. Why? I don't know. It just wasn't. It wasn't entertaining enough. It was boring.
Absolutely, because well, with her, with the only thing about with mystery novels, the reason why I get so compelled to them is because of the storyline, the plot, how they draw you into the story and what have you. But if there are not any pictures going on, it's going to be difficult for the child to engage with the book. So, yeah, you have to have something that keeps them, colors, Barney or something like that, or purple or yellow, red, or what have you. And that will come because that is what is needed today. It's more academic, more education, more knowledge, because the reading waters the thoughts, the thinking, the pattern, and then it also can be able to change and modify how the person thinks. So I think this is a wonderful thing that you're doing, with, your brand that you're, focused on and trying to continue to write and what have you, which is very, very important. So we want to talk about one of your books, and the first one is called Processing, Healing, Flourishing. So we want to talk about that, and then also we want to talk about the topic, why did you choose that name, and also we want to talk about some of the takeaways from your story plot as to what you want your readers to engage from the book.
Okay, so the Processing, Healing, Flourishing book, that was my workbook that I wrote while I was writing the novel Commitment to a Deceitful Liar. And the reason why I decided to do the workbook right away was because as I was writing the book, I was healing, and I didn't even know that I needed that healing.
Okay.
So when I was writing the book, I thought, okay, maybe, I was already fully healed, but as I started writing down things that happened and just writing down everything with the book and doing the manuscript, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm healing. I got to give this to other people.
Okay.
Because everyone asks, how do we start our healing journey? And that's like a question that's just floating around in the air that we really don't know where to start it, right? And for me, it started with my mind, but then I had to also release it, and that was through my writing.
Wow.
And that was also letting people know it's okay to struggle with your healing, because you're going to wake up today feeling like, damn, I'm on top of the world. You just won $1 million, and the next day you're going to feel like a train just hit you. You're going to start thinking about all the things from the past. You're going to wake up mad at some people from your past. And that's okay to have those feelings, but don't foster them and hold on to them. Even if it's getting a small little journal and writing down your thoughts and writing down why those thoughts started to float around again. It really helps. So that's why I did the short version of the journal, Healing, Processing, Flourishing.
Okay, awesome. So it's better because I know sometimes if you talk it out, a lot of times people may see people in the grocery store or see someone that's on a subway or something like that. So the first thing they think is that, she's talking to herself. And sometimes people are not talking to themselves; they're talking their way out of a bad situation. Sometimes it can be a therapeutic moment for individuals to be able to do that. And then also with writing, that can also be therapeutic as well, and helping the individual to be able to get their content from their mindset and from what they have gone through onto a paper where other people can be able to be compelled and healed as well.
Yeah, because I found even with me, somebody had said to me, hold back some for yourself, and I'm like, why? Don't put everything in your book. But then I realized those are the parts that I was afraid of people reading. And when I wrote it in the book, it was almost like the book was my little secret, right? Because I was afraid of how people were going to judge me and look at me. Oh, my gosh, you went, wow. And when I wrote it on paper and I was able to read it back to myself, I was like, what am I afraid of? There's somebody else that went through something similar to me, and they need to read this.
Right.
Absolutely. So if I'm holding it back for myself, I'm being selfish and not helping somebody else go through their healing process.
Right. Just think about what you may have written in your book, and then you write half of it, and then someone is looking for the other portion of it. I'm serious. They're looking for the other portion, but you left it out because you were afraid. Now, just think about what type of impact, because we read into things, correct? And so once we read into things, we want to read and read and read until we get to the end of it to see if this is what fits me. This may be me too. So if she overcame this, Janelle did. So let's see what I can be able to do. Because it seems like she is a winner. She's an entrepreneur. She's going down this path, and she went through this. But just think about what could have occurred if you would have left out the actual meat and potatoes, to your storyline, and then that would have perhaps maybe have disappointed others. And, word of mouth, even though people say in the communication world that word of mouth, it's not a whole lot of media or what have you, where it's not popular as reading the newspaper or social media, but word of mouth, you'd be surprised how word of mouth can be able to be a critical point in a person's career, because all they have to do is pick up the phone or go on social media and use that and say, you know what, I read this book, but I really didn't get what I was looking for out of this book. So it is very, very important. And that's a great thing that you did. Go ahead.
That was one of my thoughts when I was writing the book. I'm like, I want people to receive it the way that I wrote it, and the impact. And it's funny because when I read some of the reviews, that's exactly what people are saying. They got the emotion, they got the feeling, the impact. It's exactly the way that I wanted them to receive it. And even my little sister, she's a part of the LGBT community, and she struggled with this with my mom and her dad. And she messaged me, and I didn't want her to read the book, but she read it.
Okay.
And she just started telling me a whole bunch of things.
Okay.
That she experienced, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When we're writing, we have to focus on what the impact we want to give to other people, what we want them to take away from it, the feeling that you want them to feel. And that was what I had to do. I had to be intentional. Right.
And I think that's the reason why we have New York bestsellers today. We have Amazon bestsellers today, just simply because of the fact that people are transparent. They open up and let the world see what is going on, because since 2008, we'll go back there, not even the pandemic, we'll go all the way back to 2008 when the economic crash hit. People got caught up in their emotions. They didn't know if it was going to be a tomorrow. Some people felt that way. Everybody's different, and they felt that, hey, look, I don't know what's going on tomorrow, but when the book started coming out, because the authors use that. I've interviewed a lot of authors this year where they have used the pandemic and the 2008 economic crash to be able to speak to women, speak to professionals, speak to business owners, company owners, and to be able to share some things with them, even personal things, as to how to move forward from this element to this element here. So I think writing is, you guys are doing a wonderful thing. You put your manuscript in there. I wish you the best. I'm serious, because that can take a lot for individuals to be able to compile all of that information and also be able to share their transparency with the world, actually. So the next thing I wanted to talk about wanted to ask, was there any mentors that kind of inspired you to be able to launch out into writing? Because a lot of times we get inspired by different individuals, okay? And like I've explained to you, one of my genres is mystery, and I may do a little horror, depends on just how in-depth the author is with the horror of, story plot and what have you. So that's just something I would like for you to share with the audience, were there any mentors that kind of helped inspired you to be able to even write as well? Even though I know that you said, this is something I wanted to do and what have you, but some of our guests will always share with the audience that they perhaps maybe was inspired by Oprah Winfrey. Sometimes other individuals were inspired by other professionals and fine artists, fine artists who kind of inspired them to do different things, film, books, writing, what have you. And so that's the question that I would like to ask you, if you would like to share with the audience.
To be honest, I will tell you, Lisa Nichols and Sarah Jakes Roberts.
Okay.
Those two women.
Okay.
Every time I stumbled and I picked up my phone, it was some message that came from them that just reminded me to keep going. When you have purpose, you can't focus on what everyone else is saying in the negativity, because God gave you purpose to plant in somebody else. Our purpose is not just for ourselves, right? So I remember Lisa Nichols talking about when she was in school, she struggled and, the things that the teachers said, and I'm like, I struggled with the same thing. I never thought that I could write a book. But as I started writing, I didn't realize how artistic I was.
Okay. That's great. That's great.
If I didn't do it, I wouldn't have known. So those two women, if I ever meet them in life, they're a whole powerhouse, and they gave me motivation throughout my whole adult life.
Okay. Well, perhaps that'll
and my best friend, because I was saying, and my best friend, when I told her I was going to start my Instagram page, and I told her I was going to write the book, and then I stopped writing the book for months, and then she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's just, a silly little thought. And she's like, what? And she kept sending me things. This is how you do it. Here's the website for publishers. Here's networking. Like, she would just download information in me. I am blessed to have a person like that in my life.
Right. Okay.
I told her I wanted to go to the NAACP convention. And she's like, okay, so are we going? Are we going to book the hotel? Are we going to book the flight? And I'm like, are you serious? She's like, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you're going to come? She's like, yeah, it's only if you want to drive, it's only 9 hours. And I'm like, you're going to drive for 9 hours? She's like, yeah. She's like, how else are you going to get out there if we don't do these things? She's like, you have to.
Okay.
So,
the issue about Sarah Jakes, you probably can be able to do that, because I think they're having a finale this year with the Woman Thou Art Loose. I think this is going to be the last one. Sorry to say that. This is going to be the last one that they're going to be having. Her and her dad and mom. And probably sisters. I think the sister is involved, Cora, as well. So I think this is going to be the grand finale of Woman Thou Art Loose. But, I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. That will be an opportunity for you to be able to meet her, perhaps maybe in person. Okay. So we want to talk about, and they are great. I've never been to one of them before, Janelle, but I have, of course, they post some of it on YouTube and some of their other platforms, and I'm a prescriber of their ministry as well, so I get some of their books as well and things, but they are awesome. And so it's kind of sad to see that this will be the last one for the year. It's kind of sad to see that. So we want to go to your second book. And so your second book is describing Unknown Eyes, and it's a commitment to a deceitful liar. So now, of course, this is totally different from the book that we just got through discussing. So we want to talk about the topic. We want to talk about the story plot and why you chose this genre for this book.
Commit to deceitful liar. The title came years ago. Unfortunately, I moved out the night before my 19th birthday. My stepfather told me not to come back home because my brother had planned a birthday party for me, and he didn't like that we're going out. That'll be in the book somewhere. And I had a boyfriend at the time, and I moved in with him, hoping that, that Prince Charming was there. And I made a promise to myself that I was going to break generational cycles that I was raised in. And that I didn't want to create a family with repeated cycles that I was raised in, right? And one day I was sitting at my computer and I saw a message on his Facebook that his cousin had sent him, and they were talking about how he possibly has a lady pregnant in Jamaica when he went on vacation.
Okay.
And I was like, it's strange. I'm repeating a cycle here, and I didn't even realize that I was repeating my mom's story. And I had already said I was going to break generational cycles, and I wasn't going to repeat my mom's story, right? And I was sitting there, and literally the name Commitment to a Deceitful Liar came to me. And God said, you need to write that book. That is your breakthrough and for other people. And that was now 10 years ago, and I'm writing the book now, right? And the reason why I came up with the name is because we stay committed to a lot of lies that we're fed to when we're young, at a young age, and we continue to foster it and carry and then pass it on to our children, pass it on to our friends, pass it on to our grandchildren, and so on, right?
Right.
Like my mom always told me, my mom and my stepdad specifically always told me, all boys want from you is one thing, and once they get it from you, they're going to leave you. When I had my son, my mom actually told me to have an abortion and that I would never amount to anything. She told me once you have kids, it ruins your life. And I'll tell you, once I had my son, I just kept pressing gas. I finished college. I got my first career. I got my first big law firm right when I finished college. It wasn't easy, obviously, with having a kid, but it gave me motivation. So that wasn't true because I held on to that thinking, okay, well, now I'm pregnant. When's he gonna leave?
Okay. Wow.
We hear in society all the time that. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to say, how did that impact you? Because, parents can be sometimes, and we're not, hopefully that you and your mom have, have a wonderful relationship, but sometimes, a lot of our guests, they have had a lot of problems. I'm serious, got 7-digit figured incomes and what have you, and have had a lot of problems with their parents, with condescending words, not affirmations, to be able to build them up. I think I was watching a documentary last night about B.B. King and what have you, and all the things that he went through and what have you. And so his father, one of his statements that he had made on the documentary, was that his father never told him that he loved him, and that bothered him perhaps until the death of his father, and what have you. And so it's just it's a great thing that you were able to move beyond the words. You was able to write the words while moving beyond, I guess, the criticism. I would still say that that's criticism. As if just because you have a child that you would not be able to succeed in life, and that's not true. So I guess that would just be something that a lot of other women would love for you to share that, if that's also included in the book too. Not saying that, we're not here to expose our family members or what have you, but a lot of times, especially with the first book that you have written regarding the healing, flourishing, that's something awesome, and perhaps maybe you can come up with a sequel with that too. Always encourage the writers and authors that are on the show to be able to keep it moving. Sometimes you can come in with another sequel and make it out of a full novel, because people are hurting. I'm serious. You'd be surprised. Corporate America women, professionals. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They are hurting, and funny that you said that, because I was thinking about making the book into just one, but I did make it into a sequel. Because there's so many stages to it and so many things that happen in our life that we need to put it in more than one book to show people. From this stage to the next stage to the next stage, where now you're in a relationship and it's an abusive relationship. How did you get out of it? Now you're in a relationship with this man that you've been with for 5-10 years and you're not married yet. Explain why not. And then what happened after that? Did the fairy tale happen, or did you not get married? Did you leave? Like, it is a whole sequel. And I'm on to book number 2 of Commit to Deceitful Liar, Unknown Eyes, and the next one's Commit to Deceitful Liar, Lips of Truth.
Wow.
And,
okay. Go ahead. That is awesome. Go ahead.
and for my mother, you know what? Even when I was younger, she used to say things like, oh, you're going to be a whore, you're going to be a stripper, you're going to be a slut. And she would say some really mean things to me, and it used to hurt me, but I always used to pray for her, and I still loved her, and I still do. Right. But I realized that she wasn't able to break that cycle that her mother passed on to her from her mother. And even though she showed us love in her way, it wasn't what I wanted, but I had to be like, you know what, God, I'm going to take it because she's doing the best that she can, and I'm hoping that she will find that breakthrough and release. And I'm breaking the cycle so that she can see, you know what, you're not too old to break that cycle. And I'm still here loving you and wishing the best for you.
Right, absolutely.
But we don't have, I think that sometimes, when we see people do things to us, we're mad at them, but we forget that we're all human. And they were raised a certain way, and their mentality is a certain way because that's the way that they were programmed from a child. So now they have to learn new ways. Right. And we might be the child, but we can teach. And that was correct. My fear with the book was I was afraid that, she was going to feel away. But I see her, breaking down because now she's starting to express to my brother and sister she wants to get out of her abusive relationship that she's been in for over 20 years.
Okay.
And how does she do it? Because I know she's watching me. She's seeing the things that I'm doing, and she's admiring me, but she doesn't know how to show it.
Right. Perhaps because it has not ever been shown to her.
Right.
Probably because
there's always been a battle between me and her, but I know that she loves me. Right. She just doesn't know how to do it. And the book is not just for other people, but for her, my mother. I want to show you that those cycles that you were raised in, they weren't right.
Absolutely. Just to piggyback on that, we had a guest on the show, I think it was last month, beautiful. She's from Guatemala. Beautiful, and some of the same things, exact things kind of happened with her. Beautiful individual. And this lady has her own coffee brand. She is a CEO. Ooh. She is a fashion designer. She does all of these things, and she was kind of went through the same thing with you, with the, as you did, kind of basically with abusiveness, content, and different other things. And of course, we feature all of our shows on the platform and things, so it's not a secret of what I'm saying to you because it's out there on iTunes and all the rest of the podcast as well. But yeah, I think her mother kind of used her beauty to get what she wanted, but this woman is beautiful. And so out of all of what she went through, and it was worse dramatic than yours was, I'm serious. And so once, I send you the link, you can be able to, browse through the rest of the content, and you can perhaps maybe find that she is very beautiful. But after all of the things that she went through, from her mother and from her past, she raised herself up, and I'll say God raised her up as well. And this lady has her own coffee brand. She makes her own coffee. She's the CEO of it. She has a fashion clothes line and what have you. It's not that e-commerce stuff. It is real fashion design, models and what have you. And so, I applaud that. Just keep moving with it, Janelle. Moving with what you have been given to do so it can open doors for you and your children. Just keep moving. See, because a lot of times when it comes to stifling, it keeps us stuck, and then we get concerned about, my mother said this, and my daddy did that, and what have you. And so those elements, they keep us stifled. It keeps the person stifled. And so that's, I commend you for writing the books, continue to be transparent, and continue to it's like a continuation. Just keep moving with it, with a sequel. We're going to do a novel, and then perhaps maybe next we'll go on Lifetime. See, that's how the doors open up. But when we stop,
we're going to go on Lifetime.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. We're afraid and what have you and things like that. And, I'm not going to share this because this going to embarrass. It doesn't matter who it's going to embarrass. The point is you're trying to get the meat and potatoes so you can break the stigma over the next woman that needs to come out of the generational curse. I'm sorry.
Right, and I feel that even now, and the timing was so perfect because I see now, especially in the islands, they're talking more about the rape and the molestation that's going on. Before they weren't talking about it. It was kind of hush-hush. And that's what I went through with my family telling me, hush-hush, don't tell nobody. And it didn't really happen.
Wow.
So
yeah,
now
that's what the older generation did.
Exactly. That's exactly what the older generation did. And now we have our parents that are transferring negative energy onto us, and now we're growing up and reversing what they transferred onto us.
Right, exactly, because, back in the former days, people go to church and they thought everything, you go to church and you sit on the pews and nothing's wrong with me. Nothing didn't happen in my house today. Nothing didn't go along with me. Everything is good. Everything is great. And so after, watching the documentary of B.B. King, I saw where his mother, and so, of course, he's deceased, but this was an old video from probably back in the early 1930s something, and I looked as she was praising God in the pews, and I thought about it then. I said all that she had went through and all the people had went through. They was going through slavery. They was going through persecution. When they got to church, that was the only thing that they felt that they could, where they could be where nobody could touch them. Nobody could bother them. They could be there and just, I guess, serene with their religion or their beliefs and what have you. But at the same time, that's not the only option, that we can use. We have to be even transparent. We have to talk about it. I was told when I first got into business is that somebody's looking for you. Somebody's looking for your product. Somebody's looking for your services. Somebody's looking for your brand. And you best better believe me, someone is looking for your story, okay? Someone is looking for your story. So with the last question, Janelle, it's just been an impeccable hour with you on today, and thank you once again for being with us. Of course, I would love for you to be able to share with the listeners how they can be able to follow you, if you would like. Also, where they can be able to find your where they can be able to find your books, your websites, and what have you, and any links that you would like to share. You can be able to do that at this time.
My books can be found on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, all the online bookstore platforms. My website, www.JanelleSimpson.com. Instagram is @lifesdeceit. That's LIFES_DECEIT. And, yeah.
Okay. So any social media handles that you would like to share with the audience as to how they can be able to follow you?
So my Instagram page is @lifesdeceit.
Okay.
And my personal page is miss.simpson.
Okay, perfect. So, Janelle, we thank you so much for being with us today on the show. You have unloaded and unpacked a lot of information with us today, not just even about the book, but even about the story plot and how women, basically your story, and then also as to how women can overcome some things, even if it's condescending words that come up in criticism, generational issues. You have opened up some doors where women can be able to break some stigma and some old fashionable ways of doing things. And so we are thankful that you shared that information and that transparency with us on today. So listeners, follow us back here at 12 o'clock noon. We have another guest. She's an author as well, Zara Mahoon, that will be with us on Women Who Rock with Success Media, okay? And so for all other information, you can go to our website at www.womenwhorockwithsuccessmedia.com. Once again, Janelle, thank you so much, and we enjoyed having you on today.
Thank you so much for having me.